hashtag no chase still happening?
Yes, Mitch, it's
Or was
always
it
happening.
a yes chase because on Friday you got to do the whole video by yourself?
Technically, if it's just me, it's hashtag yes chase, but I think the hashtag no chase will never stop because that's just how it rolls. You gotta have hate to appreciate Mitchy boy. All right.
Pretty.
Going live.
Going live. What's going on, Shock Therapy Live? Coming to you with our new schedule. It is Tech Tuesday, and today we're going to be giving you guys something extra spicy and nice. A trouble-free Polaris XP. Everything that you want for your Polaris to duck all the problems. What's going on, Justin?
How's it going, guys? Thanks for tuning in again. New schedule. I think Chase just told you, Tuesday and Thursday. I don't think we decided what we're going to do on Thursdays, have we?
Questionnaires. Questions only, I think we're going to go for.
Try to stump me or something like that.
Stump?
If you guys, if it's UTV related and you guys can stump me, we'll give you a shirt. How's that for
That's
Thursday?
a good one.
All right.
That's a good one.
There's a challenge.
Throw away Thursdays. Just give people
away.
shirts and just throw the questions out there.
Okay, we'll take it. Chase probably told you, well, number one, he's back behind the camera. No Chase. We
Chase.
have Mitch helping us out too, so you guys fire off some questions so he can relay those too. Today is a trouble-free XP. We're going to kind of break this up into 2 or 3 different things. XP normally aspirated, which we happen to have one right over here, second car. And we also have XP turbos and Turbo S and XP Pro. Now, because the XP Pro is fairly new, we're going to leave that out because I don't have thousands and thousands of miles of experience to impart upon you guys as far as what that car is requiring when it comes to helping it out. So
Although we do got one over there.
Yes, we do have an XP Pro. We're testing almost daily on that car right now, but we haven't run it hard enough and long enough to tell you what that car needs. So leave that out. Let's just stay with Turbo S and down. So XP 1000, XP Turbo, and Turbo S. Let's just stick with that. Now, 2 different things, you guys. Let's do what parts should you throw at these cars under $2,000. So let's just keep that as the least expensive must-dos. There is a lot less to do to these cars than you have to do on a Can-Am. We're not going to go there. Let's just stick with these right here today. First thing I would suggest on these cars is you got to do sway bar links. And while you're doing sway bar, because they tend to break, while you're doing sway bar links, there's a couple, the stock one's on here right now. So that's a stock sway bar link. On the other side, Chase on the ground is a good set. There's a good set that we make with big rod ends, 5/8 as a matter of fact rod ends, which are the biggest ones on the market. Most people use 1/2 inch. But this link right here needs to be swapped out with something substantial, otherwise you can have an issue. Also, the early XPs, the sway bar is fairly light, fairly light duty, and has a lot of body roll in these cars. And I would say a good 50% of the people that we've ever talked to have probably rolled their early XPs because of that body roll. So I would suggest swapping this out with a good sway bar as well. We've got one on the ground that's actually going on this car in the back if you want to take a look at. Our sway bar is thicker, stronger, and it's adjustable. So you can stop the body roll that is easy to have problems with in an XP, and you can adjust what you like and don't like for your driving style after that. Once you've taken care of the bar and the links, you really should be doing frame supports. These are known for ripping this tab right off the frame. This weld, see, does not continue. Got a little bit of a weld on top. It's no weld in the hole on the corner, full weld on the side, and a little bit of weld on the bottom. It's not welded from the back side. These tend to rip off, and I don't mean with our sway bar, I mean like stock. They tend to rip off, especially on a 4-seater more so than a 2-seater because of the weight. So I would suggest if you have a welder and know how to do it, then weld that whole bracket on from the back side so it's welded on both sides, and you should be fine. If you don't have a welder and don't want to go there, then frame support. So this frame support that we make basically ties that upper bracket to the motor mount so that this piece and this piece become one, so this does not rip off. Frame supports are super important so you don't have any frame damage. All of them do it at some point in time, or if you drive really, really, really slow and not very much rock crawling, then you probably won't have a problem, but I'd say that's, what would you guess, Mitch? 75% of the cars we typically see
There's been a lot of
some
them.
issue with that, so make sure you do that.
Even coming in like already broken too.
Yeah, where they're coming in for our work, or we're putting a sway bar on it, and they don't even realize that tab's half ripped off. So definitely do that. Also, another thing you should do is get rid of the stock radius rods. You can even see on this one, we did not set this up for you guys at all. That lower radius rod is bent all to hell. So this car has already dragged through a rock or hit that thing. It doesn't take very much because they are pretty weak on the early XPs. So another suggestion, get rid of the stock ones, go to a good set of radius rods like these that we make or anyone else offers. We also have the biggest rod end in the industry on all of our radius rods, 3/4 of an inch. Some of the XPs, early ones, we were forced to run 5/8. Some of the new later ones, we can clear a big rod end. Another thing that's a good idea, once you change rod ends, is get rid of the 10mm hardware. So factory, most of these come with small hardware and they tend to shear off. You can drill these out and run 12mm or 1/2 inch. That's a good suggestion because we see a lot of guys with, as soon as that hardware loosens in any way, it'll just end up backing it back and forth and shearing it off. So bigger hardware on radius rods is a really good idea.
I got a quick question here,
Go
Justin.
for it, Mitch. What do you got?
Side by Side Compa George asks, where do you guys do your testing at?
We test in a lot of different places. If we can do it quickly, then we try and do it locally in the north end of town by Lake Pleasant. Also a little bit towards Wickenburg. We've got a couple spots out there. But if you really want to run big stuff like race car tests, then we'll go to Parker or we'll go all the way to Laughlin to get big whoops, big jumps, or big hits. So we can pretty much test most new models in some of the local spots that we have.
RY Guy 745 said, put your sway bar kit on a 2014, made a great difference.
There we go. So there's a testimonial for you guys that our sway bar does make a huge difference when it comes to body roll on an XP. It's almost one of the first things that we suggest people to do. Let's move to the front of this XP, okay, real quick, Chase. So now that we got the must-dos done on the rear of an XP, now we can look at the front. So you've got rear bar handle, we've got sway bar links. You pretty much don't need gusset kits for any of the frame mounts on XPs. They do pretty well, unlike like an X3. But one thing that's really weak on this car is the internals on the front differential. So you put a big tire on this, you flash it, put some horsepower to it, pretty much guaranteed inside this diff, you're gonna have a problem with the armature plate, you're gonna have a problem with the actuator spring, or you're gonna blow the sprag up. Now, we actually have had a patent on an indestructible sprag, and now RCR Sandcraft has it. So you guys should contact RCR Sandcraft when it comes to all your front diff upgrades. Not sure if they're selling that indestructible one yet. They will, and they do also have upgrades just short of that as well. So contact them for that front diff upgrade. Also, in line with them as well would be the driveline, which we can't see on this car, but running on the center console of the car, it's also common to have carrier bearing failure or shaking, vibration. If you have a vibrating driveline, then contact RCR because they make a driveline kit and carrier bearing that fixes all the vibrations on that. Last but not least on XP, and this is trying to keep the cost down, and this is kind of borderline on cost, but look at the trans. So it's very common on these trannies, XPs, right about that side cover right here, there is a bearing right here for one of the primary shafts. It doesn't see very much oil. And if you put a lot of power to the car or you put a big tire on it, say 32s, then almost guaranteed you're gonna end up having bearing failure due to oiling and or the low quality bearings that are in these factory. So if you ever have a chance to get this engine and tranny out, or you got a half part for some other reason, I would seriously take the trans out and do a bearing upgrade and also an oiling upgrade, and it would make that thing bulletproof. We raced an XP in Score and actually won San Felipe 250, and we didn't have any tranny issues once we did those. So I would suggest that. What do you got there, Chase?
I was just thinking, why don't we, for everyone just tuning in, what have we talked about so far? We're under 2K on an XP.
What we're doing is a bulletproof XP, things you should do to your car when you get one, so that you make it trouble-free throughout the time that you own it. Things we've already talked about: rear sway bar links, rear radius rods. Highly suggested that you do a front sprag or front differential upgrade. driveline for carrier bearing, and that's pretty much it. And then once you get to the tranny, we're getting into the bigger stuff. Let's talk about low-end stuff for a Turbo S. There really isn't too much on a Turbo S that you have to do. It doesn't have the sway bar issue. I would recommend that you do sway bar links. They are a lot longer and you can bend those. I would also recommend that you do radius rods. This car came in with a good set on it. The Turbo S factory radius rod is pretty strong, but could always be better. So I would suggest that. In the front, they don't have the front differential problems because they upgraded the diffs on Turbo S and RS1 and into the XP Pro, so you don't have that weak sprag in the front diff on a Turbo S. So you really don't have that issue. Majority of the things I already talked about on an XP, you don't have to do on a Turbo S, and this is one of the reasons why a Turbo S or an XP Pro are high on my recommendations for UTVs in general. And I always tell people, hey, if you're not mechanical, buy the Polaris. You're not going to work on it very much. There's not much to do. If you are mechanical, buy an X3. You're going to have to put some time into it to make it bulletproof, but I think overall it might be a better car. So it just kind of depends on how mechanical you are on which one I'm going to recommend. So I think I wrapped that up. Now, you got any questions for me at all, Mitch?
I do. Let's see if we can maybe buzz through these pretty quick here. Doug Fresh asks, what side-by-sides do you personally own?
Oh, wow. What side-by-sides do I personally own? I race an X3 RS with long travel. My pre-runner is an X3 stock travel. I have a Kawasaki KRX, have a Honda, have a General 4 long travel, my new favorite.
We had an RS1.
We had an RS1, Wildcat XX. That's about it. Now in the past we've had all the XPs. Had a turbo myself, used to race it. Had an XP normally aspirated car, used to race it. And we had play car versions of that too. So
sad day.
Yeah, it was sad when we lost.
Sad day.
If you guys saw the post over the weekend for Memorial, I think Chase put up when the car actually burnt down. I want you guys to know, if you guys saw that picture, okay, that thing was not a fuel rail or any problem with the Polaris. We actually blew up a muffler right when that happened, and the muffler exploded vertically and melted all the plastic in the bed onto the engine and caught fire. By the time we put 2 fire extinguishers on it and about 1,000 pounds of sand, there was no putting out the plastic fire at all. It was already too far. But yes, we had fire extinguishers. It was not a fuel system. It was not a Polaris problem. All kinds of other questions.
We had 50 guys throwing sand on it.
Yeah, there was a ton of people throwing sand on it. It might as well have been a dump truck. It would not go out, period. There's nothing you could do about it. So that was a sad day. I actually still have the frame, and the motor and tranny melted so much we've got a liquid trail of aluminum that I'm going to put on my wall that fell through the sand and then solidified. It's about 9 feet long. Yep. Just liquid aluminum leaving that car. But poor car. Yeah. It was a very good car.
Shoop C Kid asks, what is the best wheels for Sandcraft sand tires?
Contact Sandcraft on their wheels. I like their sand wheels. You can go Douglas as well. And who else is making a really good one? It was
Walker's got some cool ones coming out.
Yeah,
Walker.
Not for sand though.
Okay.
That's mostly off-road. I would stick with that. Call Sandcraft, call Douglas, and kind of keep your choices in that area for sand wheels.
JML_99 just received my Fox RC2s. Can't wait to try them out. Would a front sway bar be beneficial on a 17 XP 1000?
17, yeah, I love a front sway bar on that car. I think that once you've done a rear bar from us on that car, it's going to be night and day, but the car becomes really balanced when you've done a front bar. And our front bar kit is awesome, bolts right up on that thing. It'll really run your corner speeds up, and it will balance the car equally. What do you got there, Chase?
Oh, hashtag no chase.
Yeah, no chase.
I was going to let Mitch answer this last question here, but I want to know our next step here. What if I have an unlimited fund?
Okay, so when it comes back to Bulletproof XP, if you're going to spend more than $2 grand on this thing, that basically, as far as like things to do to improve it, then now I can get into the fun stuff. If you're going to run the car hard, you're going to put some horsepower to it, you're going to run it really, really hard, then I would suggest you get rid of the stock upper control arm. They're not strong enough. You can bottom the car out pretty heavy from a big air jump, and you can bend that arm. If you even breathe on a rock with this lower one, that thing is absolutely gone. It will taco like a toothpick. So I would suggest a good set of A-arms and trailing arms for the car. I would like to see upgraded ball joints. There's a lot of stuff available, RCV, a couple others, make some really good ball joints for those. Also, hub bearings. When you put big wheel and tire on it and run the car hard, you are going to experience hub bearing failure. There isn't a hub bearing that's better than stock. There is no option. You can do a complete hub, like say from ZRP, or I think even Greg Biffle was doing a nice hub with a big bearing. But my suggestion would be that you just change wheel bearings every 1,000 miles if you're going to run the car really hard. That's what we did when we were racing them. And also, you get brand new ones that press in and they're a little bit loose. I'd take them out and just press another brand new one in there until you get one that's tight. And they all are a little different. Trailing arms. Let's walk to the back. You can bend a factory trailing arm pretty easy. It'll bow right at the shock mount, bend right here, if you run the car really hard. So I would suggest a good trailing arm on the car. You've already got, hopefully, the good radius rods that we talked about on the car. So once you've done A-arms and you've done trailing arms, then you're pretty much good when it comes to arm failures. They're gonna go away. Ball joints, we talked about. You're definitely gonna want a good rack and pinion. The factory rack is not good enough when you put big wheels and tires on these things. We broke the factory rack pretty quickly in our car, and that's the reason why we made the billet race rack for a XP. That's an XP rack. We make them for turbos, and we have them for Turbo S's as well. Just actually launched the Turbo S rack. So if you don't want to have any steering issues, then buy a billet rack. Motor and trans, I would suggest that you buy a stiffening kit for this motor and tranny. It's tough to see with the camera, but where this motor and tranny are bolted together behind this clutch, it's a series of bolts between the two castings, and they like to get loose, and then they'll shear the bolt that's holding them together, and the motor and tranny will be almost separate from each other. You start loosening, you get a lot of chatter in the car, you start losing belts all the time. There is a stiffening kit from SDI, it's called a motor plate upgrade. I would suggest that. It would stop any of the separation that happens when you run them really hard. Clutches. If you keep the thing stock, if the tire's stock, then the clutches are fine. We just want to make sure that you've got adequate air going in, clean filters, and actually, decent belt. If you put any power to it or a bigger tire, then you're going to have clutch issues. You definitely need to do clutch kits on all XPs to tune the thing in perfectly. So you've got weights, and springs, primary and secondary. You need to tune that stuff, otherwise you will end up with belt problems constantly. Belts are not that big of a deal when it comes to Turbo S and XP Pros. Now, some of the early XP Pros, I know people said they had clutch problems, but that's all been fixed. Typically, anytime you change the horsepower or tire, you're going to want to do a clutch kit. That goes without saying on anything. Last, let's see. On a turbo clutch, you can get some stainless steel liners that help that thing not wear out as quick. I wouldn't suggest going as far as like a completely aftermarket billet clutch. The factory stuff is nice as long as it's not worn out and as long as it's tuned properly to not have belt issues. On a Turbo S, the arms are actually pretty strong, but we have seen some of the race car guys bend uppers, so I would say aftermarket set of arms. So that means you've got Cognito, you've got Lone Star, you've got Geyser. I'm not sure if they're making the Polaris stuff yet. Let's check with those guys. But those are some of my picks and favorites when it comes to arms. You don't have to go long travel, but you can. It's pretty much a freebie if you're buying arms already. I don't really think there's an axle issue in most of these cars until you put a ton of horsepower to it and a big tire. If you do have power and a tire, then buy a set of axles from Lone Star or RCV. RCV makes the biggest, baddest axles. We race those, have a ton of experience with them, and never break them.
That's actually a question on here from Ivan Cadena, 2001. What do you think about the stock axles on the XP models?
So on XPs, we've really never had axle problems, but you will if you keep your foot in it in the air. So you jump the car and you don't lift, but sucker, and you land it on the rev limiter, you'll have axle issues. So if you're not causing it by driving it wrong, like I just said, usually the stock stuff's pretty good. What's up, Mark? But I would suggest a good set no matter what you do, especially if you're going to run the car really hard. So again, Lone Star and or RCV. I'm not really a big like Rhino fan or any of the kind of like Chinese axles that you can get pretty cheaply. I wouldn't do those.
Jason Hohenstein, I might have butchered that. Hey guys, why does Polaris put staggered tires on stock machines?
That's a really good question, man. There's a lot of theories there. The engineers, it depends on which engineer you talk to, they've got a different answer. I will tell you this, without telling you what they say, I will tell you that it does not matter that you have a different size wheel and tire on a Polaris. You can run the same one front and back, you can run the same wheel offset front and back. The car works perfectly fine. There's no characteristics that are negative by doing that. So we suggest it all the time so you carry one spare instead of having to carry a front and a rear.
The Miller Show asked a pretty good question here. Does the Can-Am X3 have that problem with the motor and transmission making the bolts loose? Does somebody make something to solve the problem?
So Can-Ams don't have that problem. The reason that they don't is because the way that the motor and tranny are cradled in a Can-Am is as much from the bottom as it is from the side. It's also pinned, so even if the hardware came loose, the two are not going to separate. So it's a better design, honestly. When you get into the turbo stuff and also Turbo S and XP Pro, you're not going to see that because they have changed how the two motor tranny bosses interact and kind of interlock, just because of the XP 1000 issues that they had. So on the new stuff, don't worry about it, but on an XP 1000, then yeah, you're gonna wanna do it. And on an X3, you don't have to worry about it.
So I know we said we weren't gonna get into much of the Pro XP, but JDom10 asked, what would you recommend for a first modification on a Pro XP Premium Walker Evans 4-seater?
Well, I mean, on a Pro, I don't have enough time in the car to tell you what's gonna fall apart. So I can't suggest something to throw on there that it requires. Although the sway bar lengths are long and they tend to be weak spot anyway, so I throw them on there because it's not expensive, they're inexpensive to buy. In every other place of the car, we haven't really seen anything, but it's too short. I don't have enough time on it, man. But as far as options other than making the car strong, hell yeah, get into the spring and shock package on that car. It wakes it up night and day. There's a lot of negatives with the car, bone stock and ride quality. You can really make it amazing if you do that. I'm not just saying that because we do them.
We got one more here from Kevin Colis. I'm racing a 19 Turbo S Velocity, so are there not many weak links on the car?
There really isn't compared to the previous XPs. Now, if you race, you're gonna find the weak link anyway. I think on a Turbo S, if you raced it bone stock, then I think you're gonna have to throw an axle at it. And I think you're gonna end up throwing a rack and pinion in it. And also you really should be tuning the clutch so that it's perfect and you won't have belt issues. But you don't have like frame problems. You don't have like control arm mounting and pivot points, you know, wearing out or oblonging holes. So that's a big help.
This is a good one here. Jeff Christopherson 9. How about being paddled up in a Turbo S and getting the belt or keeping the belt from shredding, trying to get better life out of them? I have a AA clutch kit now, but I'm looking at a desert crap belt blower. Opinions?
So there is, what your question is, how do I keep the belt on the car when you're in the sand on a sand tire, right? Here's the deal. I have seen a lot of clutch kits that are supposed to be awesome. You put it on there and they're not tuned very well and you still lose belts. There is also no such thing as a fan that can possibly blow enough air to outspeed the air requirement that the clutch does stock. So what I'm saying is if you rev that thing up to 6,000 or 7,000 RPM, the factory clutch pumps more air than it is possible to get out of an electric fan. You cannot do it. We're talking about 3,000 or 4,000 CFM, okay? No matter what, any of those little inline blowers, they do not make that kind of CFM. You put one in line, you're just gonna restrict the air that goes to it and it's gonna get hotter, trust me. If you add an extra inlet for that fan, you're probably gonna ruin the airflow in the factory cover because there's a lot of engineering on how that air wraps around each primary and secondary and stays there long enough to cool it as opposed to only going through there on one pass and not cooling it down. There's a lot of engineering in a Turbo S clutch. I wouldn't mess with it. What I do think from experience is if the tune on the clutch is correct, you will not have belt problems. It might take a lot of effort to get it tuned perfect, but I would seriously recommend spending the time because you won't have to do things like fans and inline blowers that don't work. So for instance, on our race car, I mean, the thing makes 300 horsepower. We can keep the thing pinned at all times. Never have temp issues. It doesn't matter if we're in the dunes or in a race. Car's heavy, 600 pounds. That means a ton of belt heat. The only time we ever get the thing hot is over 95 miles an hour. So anything at 90 miles an hour and less, we don't have belt problems. Never. We can run 1,000 miles on that, never have a problem. So tune it, spend time, tune it. Contact, what's his name over at Airdam? Contact Matt at DynoJet. These are guys that are going to get it tuned so well that you'll never see temp issues and never have belt failures. Get a belt temp gauge. That way you can monitor what's going on, you can tune it, and you know you made an advance. Questions?
Yeah, this Jason Horston, Talon R versus KRX. How much of a ride difference will there be between the two after having your RIS work done? Is the KRX still that much better of a ride after the improvements, or does the package make more difference to the Talon?
We did talk a lot about this in our What UTV to Buy episode.
Yes, if you go back to our What UTV to Buy, go through there and it kind of goes through that, but I'm gonna go through it really quick. How about this? Chase, come in on me really quick. Do not buy a Honda. Buy the KRX. The ride quality in a Honda is horrible, and we can make it better, but it's never, the Honda at its best is going to be a sad example compared to a Kawasaki at its worst. How's that?
But it's a Honda.
That answers it right there.
Hey, the Honda motor and tranny are badass, but you can't, you're not gonna meet a Honda owner that will tell you the truth that says my Honda rides better than every other UTV. It doesn't. They've got geometry problems, okay?
JJH Jordan is wanting to go live with us. Let's get one live viewer in here today, if he dares, if he'll connect up with us.
Hey, I'm sorry, Honda, for telling the truth. Sorry. I love the car, I love the motor, and I love the tranny, but good God, it's geometry.
All right, he's connecting up.
There he is.
How's it going, man?
All right, it's going well. Let's get to the garage right now.
Chase, can you turn that volume up? I can't even hear it. Sorry. Hang on
hold
a second, JJ. We're trying to get some volume for you.
What's going on, man? We see you're in the garage. We like the backdrop.
Yep, I've got two of them out here right now. I've got my neighbors over here.
I was gonna say, I see 2 XPs.
Right on, man. You're kind of the house where everybody puts their car. Good job.
Yeah. And actually, he just ordered up. Get some here.
Oh yeah, look at that.
There it is.
Sweet. Set of links like we're talking about. Good job.
Yep. My question is on the shocks. He's got. Let me pull these up. They're dirty, so I apologize. On your shocks, he's got the springs and the sticker. Is there any way to verify that the internals are actually done?
If it's got a sticker on it, that means that the internals have been done. We actually do not hand those gold stickers out if people request them, just for this reason. We want to make sure that if it's got a gold sticker, it has our stuff in it. So yeah, I'm going to go with yes. If he's got a gold sticker, we've been inside of it. Now, what did we do? I don't know without having his information, but we could look it up.
Okay, perfect.
Easy question, man. That wasn't even hard. I thought you were going to try and stump us.
What's cool is that sticker's always going to carry with the life of that vehicle too.
Yeah, so if he wanted to, bring it back for rebuilds, because he's got the sticker, we're going to give him all the upgrades that we've improved on it since he did the internal shock work for free. So if we have, a better ride system that rides better than what he actually has, because we test every day, then we're going to give him for free if he does the rebuild. So tell him thank you for having our stuff on his car.
Yeah, right on.
And thanks for getting the links, man. Send us what color shirt and what size you need. We'll get it to you.
All right, thanks.
Have a good one.
Have a good day, man.
Mitch, you got more questions?
Yeah, I got 2 more here. I think we can end it on that. That seems like
cool.
a pretty short and sweet. Let's see here. J_Jurek. I've got an 18 XRX Max with almost all your products and TMWs installed now. I'm stuck between the 32 and 33 inch Tenzer. Any advice on choice? I push hard in the dunes and trails. Thank you.
I would suggest the 33. It's my new favorite. We were racing the 32 DS and now we run the 33. I think it has a little bit more tread life because it has more tread. Also, with smaller gaps between the lugs, then you tend to rip the lug off less. Like rocks aren't going to tear the tread off with the new 33. So I would suggest it. It's only about 4 pounds heavier than the 32, so there's not much negative to that tire in my opinion. 33s.
Perfect. Big shout out to Steve0714. I see him in here all the time. Did we give him a shirt? I think we did give him a shirt, but
yeah, I do see some people in here. If you never got a shirt and we were supposed to give you one, send me a direct message today. I will cross-reference, make sure you guys all get your shirts out today. Justin, for those, anybody else wants any great products from us, how do they get a hold of us? Where can they find those products?
Well, thank you for queuing me up on that, Chase. I really appreciate that. You're actually doing your job today. Hashtag love Chase. So if you guys want to buy any products from us, then go to our website, shocktherapist.com. If you have any questions about any of our stuff, or questions in general, just give us a call, 623-217-4959, and Mike, JT, or Milo will take care of you on the phone when you do call. So thanks for tuning in, you guys. Tune back in on Thursday. Let's play Stump Us, you get a t-shirt, unless we come up with a better subject to talk about, or maybe we'll double it up. Have a good one.